everything on Earth would be slightly squished at the poles and stretched out a bit at the equator. And that's because gravity would be a little stronger near the poles and weaker near the equator. It might not sound like much, but that'd be enough to make some places completely underwater. Some places just a little less underwater, and others just a little more land. But it turns out there are some other strange side effects to a faster spinning Earth. Welcome to my channel. Here are 6 things that would happen if our planet spun faster. As a planet, Earth is pretty free to spin around on its axis. There's nothing holding it back. The forces of friction between the atmosphere and the lithosphere slow us down by only a few kilometers per hour each year. So any change in our speed would have massive consequences for life on Earth, starting with pole shifts and tsunamis. Right now, Earth spins at about 1,670 kilometers per hour at the equator. But if it were to suddenly start spinning faster, let's say up to 2,000 kilometers per hour, inertia would cause everything to move towards the equator. At the same time, the centrifugal force that pushes objects away from the center of the Earth would get stronger the closer you are to the equator. And together, these forces would stretch Earth a little wider at the equator and squish it down a little at the poles. Now, if Earth started spinning really fast, way faster than the 18,000 kilometers per hour it was spinning at when it formed, then centrifugal force would actually win out over gravity. And instead of being an oblate spheroid or a sphere that's a little squished at the poles, we'd become a prolate spheroid or a sphere that's a little pointed at the poles. The problem is that getting from here to here would take more than just a few seconds. It would take tens of millions of years. And during that time, our oceans would rise dramatically at the equator and crash into the poles. There'd be epic tsunamis every single day. But it would also mean that many islands would be underwater, including Great Britain, Japan, and Madagascar. Some regions would be affected more than others, though. If you live somewhere with very flat land, your home may end up underwater. Even though sea levels would rise by about 30 meters globally, some regions would see significantly higher rises. For example, the state of Florida, which is relatively close to the equator, could get inundated by up to 150 meters of water. On the flip side, areas just a bit further north or south of that would experience a net decrease in water. So if you're somewhere like Newfoundland, Canada, or Tasmania, Australia, you might end up with drier land. You might even be able to see some extra land because Earth's atmosphere would thin out. In fact, we already see this happening right now, sort of. Earth's atmosphere gets thinner the higher up you go, which is why most weather balloons can float all the way to the stratosphere. And we also know that Earth's gravity gets weaker the further away you are from the planet's center. So as Earth spins faster and widens at the equator, its gravity would get weaker there too. That means that for those standing at the equator, their weight would increase by about 0.3%. You wouldn't notice, but you would notice if you were anywhere else. Earth's gravity decreases the further away you are from the center of the planet, which means people living near the poles would weigh less than they do now. This is the exact opposite of what happens on fast-spinning stars, where centrifugal force can be strong enough to make them bulge so much that gravity is noticeably weaker at the poles. A fast spin could also mess with your sleep schedule. Right now, the Coriolis effect influences large-scale weather patterns because it causes moving objects like air currents to deflect to the right in the northern hemisphere and to the left in the southern hemisphere. And that's just due to Earth's rotation. But if Earth were to spin faster, the Coriolis effect would become even stronger and more noticeable. Hurricanes would be more extreme, and getting hit by one would be more dangerous. Jet streams would get stronger too, making travel by plane more turbulent. And large bodies of water like lakes and oceans would rotate faster too. In fact, they'd spin so fast that giant eddies would form in the ocean. These would be huge rotating masses of water that could be hundreds of kilometers wide. It could also impact how well GPS systems work. We rely on satellites orbiting Earth to give us accurate location data, but those satellites are in orbit due to a delicate balance of gravitational forces. If Earth were to spin faster, then those orbits would get messed up, and so would our GPS systems. In fact, that could make it harder to navigate no matter how fast Earth is spinning. Fast spinning Earth would have fewer navigational landmarks. As Earth's shape shifted, many mountains would become smooth hills or disappear altogether, and volcanoes could flatten into tall mounds like this one in Iceland. There'd still be plenty of hills and mountains in the crust, but since tectonic plates are always moving and shifting, faster spinning would shift them around sooner than they otherwise would. That's because centrifugal force weakens the gravitational force that holds Earth together. And that gravitational force is what drives plate tectonics. A weaker gravitational force would also allow Earth's plates to drift apart more easily, creating new ocean basins and mid-ocean ridges where they pull away from each other. Volcanoes along those ridges would also get supercharged, spewing lava and ash into the sky more frequently. And Earth would release more carbon dioxide and water vapor into the atmosphere, and that could make our planet even warmer. One model suggests that if Earth were to spin 40% faster than it does today, then global temperatures would rise by about 2 degrees Celsius. A faster spinning Earth would also have more clouds, although not necessarily in a good way. That's because as Earth's equatorial bulge grows, so will the amount of moisture in the atmosphere. Higher temperatures mean more evaporation, and when the air rises faster at the equator, more condensation and more clouds. But the trade winds that blow from east to west would become stronger. And once they reach land, all that moisture would fall as rain. Basically, we'd have more intense tropical storms and less rain in temperate regions. And Earth's atmosphere would get a lot noisier, too. Hurricanes and thunderstorms are louder when they form near the equator because air rises faster there. So a faster spinning Earth would be louder overall. You could hear hurricanes forming 2,000 kilometers away. But if you're tired of all the noise, you could always escape to space. Just don't expect anyone to come rescue you if anything goes wrong. Because satellites would also be busier than ever before, a faster spinning Earth would need more satellites to keep our GPS systems working. And those satellites would be much more crowded. If Earth were spinning so fast that its equatorial diameter increased by just 1%, we'd need almost 10,000 more satellites to maintain our current level of coverage. Luckily for us, none of this is likely to happen anytime soon. Our days are already long enough. What would you want to do if our days were shorter? Let me know in the comments below. And speaking of days, it's day 18 of 30 of my 30 days of studying the greats. I'm reading Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. Do you have any recommendations for books that I should read next? Leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.